Hey everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our YouTube channel. My name is Julie Moore and this is my husband, Dwayne Moore, and we are Moore's Coaching. Today we're really going to talk about who we are, what our business is, and so I want to first start with asking my husband a couple questions. So with so many coaching programs and platforms out there, what makes our company's approach so different from the rest?
Well, I've been involved in this for a long time, and I really wasn't excited. I had a business partner and came in and talked to me about a new coaching tool that we could use, and I was really just not ready for it because I'd already been studying so many different platforms. But when I saw this, there's a couple things that really caught my eye about it, and it's really proven itself out over time. And the biggest thing that makes us different than most any other coaching or consulting program or just anything that's out there is the tool that we use called the Hartman Value Profile. And that's what we base most of our coaching off of. And what the Hartman Value Profile does that's unique and different to almost any other program out there is it allows us to get to the root cause of what most people are trying to treat or the symptoms of things. But you'll never correct a person by just working on the symptoms of it. You've got to find out what the root cause is. And let me explain that a little bit. Most people, what they get aggravated about with someone is a symptom. They don't even know the root cause. They just know that something's going wrong. And everybody gets mad about the symptoms, whether it's a drinking problem or whether it's a pornography problem or whether it's a personality problem like depression or anger issues. But all of those things that we see play out, they're symptoms. They're not the root cause. And I noticed when we worked in the prison a long time, when we first started with this tool, we were doing prison ministry, and it gave us a great opportunity to just see what the tool did. Does it really work or does it not work? But what we found out was it was capable of going down into the root cause. And what was big about that was you had inmates getting out of prison going right back in what they called recidivism. Mm-hmm. And they would get out and, within a year, they were right back in there. Mm-hmm. And the reason is the root cause of the problems never got dealt with. You can hide symptoms. I mean, you really can. If you got a drinking problem, you can hide it in the closet, but, you still got the root cause out there. And so that's what makes us different, is the ability to identify the actual root cause of what's causing all the problems, and not only identify it but measure it.
Okay.
And because it's measurable, that makes it improvable.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Hartman Value Profile and on how it actually will work. What does someone do when they take this Hartman Value Profile?
Well, it's really funny because every time, we work with someone to get ready to take it, we're telling them, this is going to make no sense to you.
Yes.
I mean, I know when you took it, you was probably like, what in the world did I just do?
It didn't make any sense.
But the Hartman Value Profile, it works off of something called the science of formal axiology. Mm-hmm. And that was actually founded by Dr. Robert Hartman. And that's where it gets its name, the Hartman Value Profile. Now, this thing is complex. I mean, I tell people it can be as simple as saying your ABCs on the reading side of it, but it can get as complex as writing volumes of encyclopedias. Mm-hmm. And for customers and our clients, they don't have to worry about that. Yeah. All they need to do is see the results of it. But it works off of, like I said, the science of formal axiology, which is actually, it's the study of human values. And someone may say, well, why are they important? Why are values important? Well, values are what create decisions and actions. Mm-hmm. And so when I say we can get to root causes, it's because we can get down to the actual value structure of a person. And if you're having a bad symptom of something, let's just say like someone with addiction or PTSD, you can actually look at their value structure and tell what's broken, causing the bad symptoms that we see. You can't medicate it because it's a value that's broken. And that's where a lot of modern science and medicine misses it, is you can't medicate a broken value.
Yes.
You can only correct it. But that's what it is it's actually measuring human values. And there's a lot to the values. We'll talk about that in some other videos, like value structure and what it is and what it looks like, and value hierarchy and why that's important. But just for today, for the introduction, it's just understanding that decisions and actions come from values.
I want to talk about a little bit more on, you said the word measurable. Explain to everybody why that's important in what we do, because when you look through the math.
Well, I mean, you think about it. You go to a doctor because you have depression. And what do they base that off of? You know,
just you tell them.
I'm depressed, you know, or I do this and I do that. But it's not measurable. So if you take a pill, you can't go back 2 weeks later and measure, is that pill improving it, you know? But what is different about the Hartman value profile, and remember, always behind the Hartman value profile is the science of formal axiology driving everything.
Yes.
So Dr. Hartman was a philosopher, but for this to become a science, it has to be mathematically provable. And so Dr. Hartman was able to put mathematics around all of these root causes and all of these issues and all of these things. And so when you take that test, you're actually going to move 2 sets of phrases that are 18 phrases on part 1 and 18 phrases on part 2. I probably won't ever talk about it again, but what makes the math behind it work is it's transfinite calculus to the law of enumeration. And that doesn't make any sense to any of us, and it probably shouldn't. But what it means is there's math behind all of this that makes it work. There's a perfect value hierarchy that in the world of perfection it would be this. We've never seen one in testing clients like that. Yes. But we have seen some very strong results. But that makes it measurable, and that is so important because the fact that it's measurable, it's improvable.
That's where,
and that's actually what got my buy-in, because you know we were using some different tools, doing coaching, DISC and just a variety of different things back 15, 20 years ago. But none of it was really measurable at that level. And so, I just felt like we were always kind of throwing things in the air, hoping they was going to work. And a lot of things like DISC assessments and things like that, there's more of a personality trait. And they don't really change. Your personality is your personality. You are who you are. But values can change by the second.
Yeah.
And that's what, they don't usually change like that much, but you can have catastrophic things come into your life and totally shift your value structure. Yep. But that's the thing about it, is because it's measurable, it's improvable, and we can monitor it. So when we're sitting there working with a client, we're not just saying, hey, you're doing better. You can take the assessment and see the results itself. That way we know, are we making progress or are we not making progress?
Yeah.
And that's for an individual, that's for a team at a company. If we're trying to improve a team environment, you can measure all of that.
Okay. So speaking of our clients, what kind of results do our clients typically experience once they go through the process?
It's very, very interesting. And we've been involved in thousands of these. So we're not talking about just working with 2 or 3 people, seeing this is what thousands of people. Yes. I used to have days that some days I would work with 30 people in a day. And I'll be honest, that's too much. But I mean, that's what we were doing. And so I have sat down, and I'm going to talk about one case in particular right here. We had someone in our own personal family that reached out because she was in a mess. I mean, the phone call was just tears and destruction, and just my life is at an end. I don't even know if I want to live anymore. And it was early on in our company. I probably hadn't been working with this assessment, but it may have been less than a year. Here I am now, 15, 18 years down the road with it. But at that point in time, I was young in this thing. And she reached out to me, and I'll be honest, it scared me. It really did scare me. So she came in and she took the assessment, and it was horrible. I mean, it was what we saw in the prisons. And you can see within this assessment where a person is really getting in trouble in life. They no longer find value in themselves. They no longer find purpose in what they do here. And those are bad indicators that they're thinking in the wrong direction. And when she came in, and listening to her on the phone and seeing the test results, man, it shook me a little bit. I'm not going to lie about that, because I didn't want to be wrong. You got a family member, somebody you care about. I know what the assessment said, and I will say that I have learned to trust it. I have never seen it miss it. Yeah. Never seen it miss it. One of the things is you can't trick the test, because you wouldn't even know what to do with it. Exactly. When you look at it, you're like, I wouldn't know what's right and wrong. And so when I really studied her assessment and I looked at her assessment, it said something crazy. And it talked about that she no longer found value in herself. She no longer found purpose in herself. And when you really start to learn this, you'll know that's a bad sign. That's one of the worst signs that you can see. It's when somebody's given up on themselves and given up on life and given up on their purpose. Yeah. And with all of the stuff I've been involved with, I had learned how to fix self-value. And really what it told me is she needed something to pour herself into, and something that she felt like cared about her. Now, she was in a horrible relationship, and that was part of the conversation she poured out to us that day, is how bad she was being treated in that relationship. Yeah. She was being devalued and, just torn apart. And so what we did was, I know it sounds crazy, but this is how crazy this stuff is. I felt like if she could get a puppy, that could be something. First of all, I had to ask her if she liked animals, because if you don't like animals, that can be a stressor. Yes. And I'm not really saying not like animals, but, do you have time to care for it? Would you find purpose in that? And she's like, oh, I love puppies, And she was like, but he wouldn't let me have a puppy. And I was like, but you live in the apartment. It's not his. And I really made a pretty tough recommendation that she probably needed to minimize her time with him right now and draw some separation there, because he was tearing her down every day. And I felt that the puppy would give her that self-value and that feeling of being needed. And I'm telling you that within a couple days, she wasn't even the same person. She was laughing, she was joyful, and that's what we talk about with these things, is the root cause of this is she didn't feel valued. Yeah. She didn't feel needed. She didn't feel wanted. And she didn't feel important. But every time she'd go in there with a little puppy, he needed her. Yeah. And he was so happy to see her and stuff like that. So there's times that we see immediate results. I have been sitting down with people reading the results of the test and the light bulb go off.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
They'll sit there and say, oh my gosh, I was 14 years old. I can't believe what just came back to my mind.
Mm-hmm. That's where it changed.
And that's where they go right back. We don't tell them what broke. Usually they're going to call it out themselves and says, oh my gosh, I see this. Sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes it's been years.
Yeah.
But you'll see that light bulb moment a lot of times. And it's like, wow. A lot of times they'll tear up because this has been something that has destroyed their life for years.
Yeah.
Other times it may be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Because it may be multiple things, that have piled on top of each other for years. And this destruction left to this destruction, and this destruction left to this, And then it's just like you're just unpiling all of this stuff. And you just have to be patient and let it work its course,
Yeah.
But again, we're not trying to be like counselors or psychologists and say, let me take you back to November the 4th, 1938. We're not doing that.
No.
And we don't stay on that, because a lot of people say, let's go back to that moment. We're not going back anywhere. We're moving forward. Look, we're just going to identify where you got off track a little bit, and we're just going to move right on past that, So, but it can be immediate, and then sometimes it may take a little bit of time, but more often than not, them finding the root cause has been fairly immediate, and self-identification of it sometimes begins the correction.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they know.
Yeah.
The knowledge of it,
Yeah.
And so the knowledge of the problem's half the battle. Because see, they're frustrated. They've been out there, being accused of being an alcoholic. You're alcoholic. Quit drinking. Your problem is the alcohol was not the root. It was the symptom, and they couldn't get rid of it because they had never got to the root of it.
Yeah.
But they're frustrated. Their family's frustrated. Everybody's ready to give up. It's been 10 years. You're still alcoholic. I've had you in 10 treatment programs. I know recently we had a girl tell us this was her 15th time in a treatment facility.
Yeah.
But she identified that root cause, teared up, and was like, why couldn't somebody have told me this so long ago?
Yeah. It seems so simple, but it's like, the light bulb comes on, and then they see the steps of how to get out of it.
Yeah, and you start to get identified by your symptoms so much that nobody ever even thinks about there's a root cause behind it.
So clearly, this, Hartman Value Profile helps individuals, but what about businesses? How does axiology, Hartman Value, apply in that setting? Now,
I will say right here, there's a lot of people probably going to watch our videos and say, wow, if this was such a big deal, why have I never heard of, the Hartman Value Profile or the science of formal axiology? The truth about this is it got wrapped up in intellectualism and high-level capitalism. It's actually been very effective in large corporate America. I'm not going to name the names of the companies, but there are some of the top companies in America that have used this. Dr. Hartman himself worked with a few of them, and then there's been other doctors of philosophy, because axiology actually comes under the grouping of philosophy.
Okay.
But I say that because it has been in the business world way more than it has been in the personal world. Because a lot of these people, once they got educated in axiology and got involved in the Hartman Value Profile, there was such a demand for it. Can you come to our company? We'll pay you this amount of money. And as well as I know, working in addiction doesn't pay well.
No.
Most addicts are broken. They're broke in a lot of different ways, spiritually, physically, financially.
Yep.
And so a lot of these early pioneers of axiology, they were making good money working for corporate America. And I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a few minutes because that's what made it kind of unknown is it got wrapped up in big corporate America and they were banking it and these guys are making a lot of money by solving major issues in these companies and that's how they became so successful.
Yeah.
But I will say that in the business world, I'm going to break it down on a couple practical things so it's easy to understand. One of the most costly things in the business world is poor decision making. Mm-hmm. And so we've done it ourselves in the business. You and I've talked about it before. I hired someone, raised them in the business, and thought we could turn the business over to them, and they failed.
Yep.
But the real failure was me. Because I took for granted that he knew everything I knew,
yep.
And so he didn't. I had taught him the hands-on side, but not the mental, intellectual side of everything and why you do this. And it didn't take long. We started seeing signs of failure in it. Well, that's poor decision making. Mm-hmm. And so that is one of the most costly things in the business world is making poor decisions. It's also in our personal lives too. But we're talking about business right now, but also stress.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, in the business world, there's a lot of leaders that think stress should be acceptable. Mm-mm. If you create a culture of stress and an environment of stress, you are destroying your company very fast.
Extremely fast.
Stress is the number one enemy to great decision making. Mm-hmm. You can be one of the smartest people on the planet, but stress can rob you of the energy to use your intellect. Mm-hmm. You don't have another answer in you. But in the business world, the practical side of it is when you're building teams, those teams have to function together well. And this is going to be for another video, but I'm going to give a little example of it. Mm-hmm. When you get into the value structure, there's intrinsic, extrinsic, systemic. That's the foundation of what we talk about in this all the time. The people side, the process side, and the strategic thinking strategy side. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you could have a company and you could be running more like an assembly line company or process things that have to be done. You're doing tasks, just mundane tasks, getting them done. Yeah. You bring this person into an interview and they blow the interview away. You're like, this is the best employee that we're ever going to hire. Then you put them out there on the assembly line and they totally fail. Mm-hmm. And you're like, that's not the person I interviewed. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. What it was is you interviewed an intrinsic person that would have been a great addition to your sales team because they're a people person and they can read people, they can communicate, they can tell you what you want to hear. Mm-hmm. But you needed an extrinsic person, somebody to go out there on that assembly line and get the task done. Yeah. So in the business world, there's books written about putting people in the right seat on the bus. Yeah. And that's what this allows us to do. We can tell you, I don't care how good your interview is or isn't, but we can tell you, is this person better fit for doing tasks? Is this person going to be better for, being able to sell, promote, be the face of the company? Are they going to be a strategic thinker? Yeah. But where you run into a lot of issues at too is when you're building a team. You can have issues come up on the team that you don't understand. And it's communication issues. Same thing in marriage. Yeah. If I'm a people person and you're a task person, I'm wanting to talk to you and hang out with you and get to know you, and you're wanting me to get a job done. Mm-hmm. And that gets frustrating in the business world too. Yeah. But also you have things like if you've got, your management team, and you've got a person that's idealistic and a person that is realistic. They're going to be very destructive at each other if they don't understand how to unite those differences. And really the power is in the unity of both of them. Yeah. But when they don't understand it, they are going to go at each other's throat, just as a marriage could too. Yeah. But it happens in a team environment too, because they see your viewpoint as totally wrong. They don't understand it's 180 degree of the picture. They just think your whole point of view is wrong. Usually it's funny, you can walk in business meetings and you'll find your idealistic and realistic person sitting the furthest apart and they don't talk. Because they have frustrated each other so much, But it's things like that, and in the business world, I'll give you a quick example. Guy was doing really, really good in the company. He was working out on the floor. He got his job done. He had tasks that he needed to do, and that's kind of what he did. He ran his section, and buddy, it was always perfect. He had everything done. And they watched him and said, golly, you'd make a great manager. And so they promoted him to manager, and, within 2 months, they're ready to fire him. Mm-hmm. What happened? He was good at tasks, but he hated communicating with people. Mm-hmm. And so them not understanding that, they promoted a task person, not a manager.
Yep.
And as a manager, you really kind of need to have a good, well-rounded value hierarchy, because you need to understand people, the process, and the long-term consequences of actions and decisions.
Yeah, more of a blend.
And they're very confused when they promote this person, like, what went wrong? Is he mad now? Mm-hmm. But not only, it's putting the right people in the bus, it's also knowing as a company, when you get ready to hire someone, what do you need?
Yeah.
And that person you're interviewing, do they bring to the company what you're looking for? Or are you bringing in a problem and plugging them in the wrong place? Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of times when we go into companies, they've got so many people plugged into the wrong place. It's just a mess. Everybody's frustrated, but it can have tremendous impact in the business world, bringing stress down, improving decision-making ability, improving communication, improving just the overall production, because when you get people doing the right thing, things just, they run better. Yeah. And you spend a lot of time yourself, I know, working with a company, creating all these flow charts and what do you do and why do you do it, and stuff like that. So.
But all right, so next question. So if someone watching this wants to begin the process, what's the first step? How do they get involved?
Well, you're going to have some information, I guess, below the video that'll tell them how to get in touch with us. Yes. And whether you're having personal problems that you just can't seem to figure out what's going on. And look, first let me tell you this: don't be so rough on yourself. Don't be mad at yourself. Whether it's an addiction, or whether it's depression, or you just can't get going. Don't beat yourself up so bad if it's been years that you've struggled with this, because I'm telling you, people have tried to fix things through fixing symptoms, and you cannot do that. No. It will not happen. You can mask it, you can hide it, you can pretend it, but even doctors, if you're like, well, I've been going to doctors, you can't medicate a root problem. What the medication and the alcohol and all that does is it masks it and it tries to hide it so you don't feel it. But once the medication or the alcohol or whatever goes away, that feeling's still there because it's a broken root cause. So don't beat yourself up. Don't be frustrated about it. Just realize people have tried so hard to work with symptoms. And why do they work with symptoms? Because that's what they don't like. Mm-hmm. They don't like you being an alcoholic. They don't like you being depressed. They don't like you being angry. And so they want what they don't like fixed. Right. They don't ever even think about, well, you got a root cause done, and they're just like, I don't want you drinking no more. Get away from my house. I don't want to see you. Mm-hmm. And so all you really have to do is reach out to us. We'll start with a simple phone call. It doesn't cost you a penny to call us and talk to us. And of course, everything's confidential. But we'll just talk to you. And then the next step is we can get you to take the assessment. We can talk about pricing and all of that on the phone when you call us. It's not as expensive as you think. Let me tell you something. If this test costs $10,000, which it's nowhere close to that, let me tell you this. It's cheaper than the pain and agony that it would cost a lot of people already to this point in their life. The loss they've had with their family, the businesses, the wrong hire for a business of what that costs, and all of these things. But I'm telling you, this assessment, it's going to cost you less probably than $150. And just reach out to us, talk to us. We have a couple different programs that are available. You would take the assessment. It'd take you we would send a link to you so that you can take it. It's going to take you about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how quick you move through it. And it's not something you're going to sit there and need to try to overthink. It doesn't work that way.
No.
But we'll go over all that with you. But when you get your results back, you will be floored. I mean, I'm telling you, it is absolutely beyond amazing of what happens and how this assessment reads you. And like I said, it's going to give all this information to us, but it doesn't really sit there and say this is the root cause. It's just we have learned how to read these things at multi-levels. And when you get down into the multiple deeper levels of it, that's where you can see it. And some of you are going to take this assessment and it's going to be very good.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, well, that's why you've been successful. That's why you're a CEO of the company. Mm-hmm. But your stress level right here is starting to indicate that you're about to get in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. And usually when we say that to them, they're like, oh, yes. But we have ways to fix everything. All of these indicators, remember I said if they're measurable, they're improvable. And we've got programs and books and everything that are dedicated to each one of these indicators. And listen, there's a bunch of them. PTSD, antisocial, snobbiness. I mean, those are some of the weird ones right there, you know. Yeah. But then it just gets down to like stress, depression, an inability to communicate well with others.
Loss of a loved one.
The loss of a loved one. It can hang you up in a cycle of grief, you know, and different things. And then there's a lot of things we'll do other videos on. Why can't I talk to my child? Mm-hmm. You know, every time I try to communicate with my child, why does it blow up? Boy, we can tell you. We can tell you because you guys are going to have differences. And those are what blow up, just like it can blow up in a business, blow up in a marriage or whatever. Just because they're your child does not mean that they're just like you and that they communicate just like you. But, you know, reach out to us. Look at the information below. You can personally call us. Julie's going to put our phone number there. You can personally call us. I will tell you, we're a little bit busy at times. So if you have to leave a voicemail, don't worry about it. I'll call you back. But I may not be able to answer it right at that moment, but I will call you back. So, but all the information will be below on how to get in contact with us.
Yeah. And so before we close, what final thoughts would you like to leave with our viewers today?
I guess, you know, Julie, you and I have done this a long time. Mm-hmm. We did it with our children. Mm-hmm. And Julie can tell you that this assessment doesn't miss it. It don't miss it. I mean, it may be hard to swallow for a minute, mm-hmm. but it's way easier to swallow than years without a problem being fixed. Yeah. You know, and to be honest with you, we've talked to our kids about some tough issues. Yeah. But thank goodness we were able to call it out and talk to them about it. And they didn't deny it.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know, and we also saw improvement with our children. Yeah. You know, but my final thought is, you know, if you are a business, I'm going to tell you, if you're a business owner, do not take stress for granted. It is one of the number one hidden enemies sitting within your company. It can rob the greatest CEO of all of their potential and lead them flat on their face. Mm-hmm. Stress can even lead to substance abuse because you're trying to mask that feeling that you're getting of being overwhelmed. There's simple stress and there's complex stress, and we'll talk about those later. But if you are a business, you need to pay attention to stress. And you also need to understand that there are different type people that do different type things. And just because they interview good does not mean that they're the right fit for the position that you're trying to put them in. And you may have promoted somebody that hasn't performed like you thought, and you probably promoted them outside of their area of expertise. And we'll talk about all these later. You don't want to miss when we start breaking these things down into dimensions and what they are.
Yeah.
But if you are an individual, I will say this: I don't care how many years you've been struggling, how bad you're hurting. There is help.
Yes.
I know that if you've had serious problems with depression or alcoholism or addictions and things like that, that you have probably had people only trying to treat symptoms. And it may have been years that you've been involved in these programs, just like the girl that we dealt with this year said this was her 15th time, in a treatment program. And I said one thing to her, she teared up and said, I was 14 years old when this took place. And it wasn't something big like you would think. This was something that you would think wouldn't have even shaken her that much, because all it was something that got said. Mm-hmm. But she got hurt from it and she never healed from it. And that became, here she is 15 years later still dealing with that moment when she was 14.
That was her stumbling block.
And so, guys, I'm just telling you, don't be ashamed to reach out, because you don't have to continuously suffer with these things. And we're not BSers. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not going to throw out some BS. I mean, I'm going to tell you what the assessment says. I trust it. Mm-hmm. If it ain't there, it's not there. But I'm going to tell you, if you've got issues, there's going to be a root cause. And I'm probably not going to discover it. You're probably going to discover it and talk about it during our conversation going over the assessment. You'll probably say, wow, I need to address this. And a lot of it goes back to daddy issues and mama issues, and because a lot of your values are built up until the age 13. Yep. That's when a lot of your foundation of your values are built. And I will tell you this: if you had something catastrophic, between birth and 15 years old, it probably shifted your value structure a lot. But it's fixable and it's improvable. And so that's what I would just tell you. There's hope. Not BS, not medication, not talking about symptoms, but getting down to the real issue that's been causing you so much pain and so much problems. But whether you're a business or whether you're an individual, I guarantee you it would benefit you to talk to us, because we have some real measurable solutions that we can talk about and put on different issues that you have.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today, and just make sure to like and subscribe, because we will be posting more videos, more on specific topics, stress, really diving deep in that, and some coping mechanisms for that, and we're going to try to hit all the topics. And if you want us to talk about something, leave a comment and let us know what y'all want us to talk about, and we'll try to make a video on that as well. Again, our information is going to be in the write-up, and make sure to reach out if you need help, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Yeah, thank you guys. Bye-bye.